there we are. We are live. Welcome to
All
Tidbits and
right.
Scribbles, guys. I think I did it right this time.
All right.
Stay
Looking
tuned for other
good.
pods. Okay, let's see. Where are my comments? I found my comments. Okay, cool. Now, our topics tonight, again, like it's a writer's roundtable. We just kind of go with what we've got, what someone else came up with, because sometimes I don't come up with the good stuff. All right. Carl, do you want to go first? Donna, do you want to go first? You guys both had ideas?
Yeah. Let Donna go first. Ladies first.
Oh, you
I
mean
know,
me?
right? Who are you calling a lady?
I say after being married almost 35 years, you know better. No, I've just been kind of maybe even obsessing a little bit this last week, thinking about how I was as a child and wondering how other creatives were as a child. Um, when Lost in Space was on Wednesday nights, I was the one on Thursday at lunch hour. I was the producer, director, whatever. Everybody had their favorite characters. For some reason, I was Dr. Smith all the time, but I was the one that said, okay, remember, this is how the episode went, this was how the dialogue went, go. And, oh, no, 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 you have to be over here, that sort of thing. Uh, I wrote a play. Okay, I stole a lot from the Munsters, but I wrote a play in sixth grade that was put on in the classroom. I wrote my first Man from Uncle as a freshman. Again, yeah, stealing a lot, but
Right, but when you're a
I,
kid, you don't know that it's plagiarism.
yeah, but just putting my my own story in there, and I was always doing that. I was always, daydreams are different for creatives. It's not just a way to while away time. It's something that you
Right.
you think about and
Definitely.
then, oh, I've got to get that down on paper.
That's not plagiarism if it's your own ideas in
Right.
there. That's fanfic or a pastiche.
Right. And I didn't even
Well,
know
now,
when I was writing Secret, I was a kid. I'm not kidding you when I say I was maybe 13 when I wrote the first scene for Secret. And like I've said before, I don't necessarily start from the beginning and end at the end. So the main scene that is so gripping and so compelling to most people in Warrior Secret, I wrote it when I was 13. I was that into writing and being a creative, and yeah, everything was storytelling.
yeah. Well, I
Oh,
often
like,
think
oh, sorry.
somebody who says, I want to be a writer,
Hmm.
you're not a writer. Because if you are a writer, it's I've got to get that down on paper.
Yes, I have to put it on paper. Yes.
Okay,
Like
back then paper.
like
Yeah.
Donna, I was writing plays as a kid. Um, well, that's
Welcome,
okay.
Dawn.
What? Welcome. Yeah.
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 Um,
Dawn is a reader. She's a super reader. She loves my books. She will love your guys' books. So, Dawn, ask a question if you want to. We're all writers,
Please
authors.
do.
So, yeah, if you've ever wanted to ask an author a question, now is the time.
um, you know,
Don't quit your day job.
yeah, no, yeah.
Sure.
Comics will break your heart, kid.
Writing will break your heart.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
But like Donna, I was writing plays, and we had my father had torn out part of a wall, which made a perfect stage because one part of the one room
Floor.
was higher than the other one by about a foot and a half,
Ooh.
so that was a perfect stage.
Oh, heck yeah.
And of course, we had wigs and costumes and all that sort of stuff. I mean, and I was typing this out on a manual typewriter, and then I would give my brother and sister their lines that they had to run through, and it was amazingly stupid, but it was great
Right.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right. But as a kid, you were a creative
as
already.
a kid. Yeah, oh yeah. And like Donna said, I did it.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
didn't say I want to be a writer. I want to be a published. writer. I want to be a
Yes,
published
I
author.
want to be published is what I've always said. Because
Mhm.
I was always a writer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's my favorite writer's quote is Dorothy Parker, who said, "I hate writing, but love having written."
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Because
I've
while
heard
I'm
that.
doing it, it's almost how I hear mothers talking about giving birth. But
Yes.
after it's all done, it's
Mhm.
like, oh man, that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
people ought to read this.
Yeah.
I don't
Dan,
believe that
Brian,
I don't believe I actually wanted to be a writer per se.
Hmm.
I was always uh, daydreaming and
Mm.
uh, acting out little bits and pieces of scenes from books that I read. God, I was reading constantly.
mm-hmm.
Um, but there was one time at one age we were living up in East Tennessee. We had a fireplace with a brick hearth. It was a huge fireplace. Of course, I was probably about 6, maybe 7, and my parents caught me one day. I was jumping up on the fireplace and acting like I was a talk show host and giving the little intro monologue and telling jokes, and then turning it over to the band and jumping down off of the fireplace
Off of your
and
stage.
Mm.
off
That's
my little
awesome.
stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I probably would have taken that further if they hadn't laughed. I mean, I was enormously, and I still am enormously sensitive to
Criticism.
well, no, not so
And
much
that's not
criticism.
criticism.
It's basically a fear that people are laughing at me instead of with me.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I see.
It's probably why I'm such a clown now, really.
Maybe.
Um, and I finally reached the age where I don't care as long as you're laughing. I don't care who it's at
Yeah. Yeah.
or if it's with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Did
but
little
Brian.
Brian write?
Brian wrote a lot, yeah. It kind of started with when I was very, very young. I grew up in the country, so I didn't have regular playmates.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I was a huge comic book fan back then too, back when I was 3 and 4 years old. And I didn't have it down that if you read like the legal information, because that was boring, you'd learn that they only put those books out every month or every other month or twice a year, whatever, or even annually. And I wanted more adventures of my favorite comic characters, so I would make up new stuff with them in
Mm-hmm.
between the issues.
Mm-hmm.
I had some of my action figures, and I'd turn them into like the Human Torch or Superman, whatever. And, you know, parents probably wondering about why is Brian doing this
Yeah.
with the GI Joe? Why is he
What is he
doing that?
doing?
What's wrong with him now? Well, actually, Mom did ask me one time, what was I doing? And I said nothing. And then she followed it up with, what are you doing it with? And I replied, truthfully, a hammer. Um, that's when she learned never to leave me out of her sight. But I got to the point where I was like making little comics of my own, stapling them together. I came across a few of them. None of you will ever see them. They are horrendous. But then I realized one day that, or my mother actually informed me, somebody got paid to put those words inside the balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that kind of led me into
Mhm.
study that, and a couple other incidents in my life led me into wanting to become a published writer, which I think is a worthwhile goal for anyone that scribbles down their ideas.
Yeah. And I think for
Yeah.
me, when I first got that itch to like, I need to be a published author, because where I came from, again, we grew up poor, but in a poor community as well. Like the community was like everybody knew everybody, and to this day, it's much that way. And so the idea of you wrote a book, you must be famous, you must be rich.
Mm.
So if you write a book and you get it published, you're rich because they pay you to publish it, right?
Right.
In a way, yes, but not if you're not a big name, you're not going to be rich. No, if you don't
Right.
write 40 books, you're not going to be rich. Like there's a science to it.
You're right.
Back then you don't think of that. You just think, wow, an author, a published author. That means One, somebody gave you validation and said you were good enough to be a published writer.
Mhm.
And then you got money for doing it. Sign me up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
All
we
the
publish
way up
ourselves.
until when I was in college, what I wanted to do was be the cover artist for paperback books.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
My mom was her first job before she even left high school. She was an artist retouching black and white photographs in a photo studio, colorizing them with paint,
Mhm.
and that was back in the 40s,
Yeah.
must have been. But I was taking art classes all through school because uh, mom was teaching me stuff. I just had this bent to be
Yeah.
able to draw and paint and do stuff like that. And I thought, hey, this will be a good career for me is doing paperback book covers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
I
Yeah.
I didn't
every
really get into to actually wanting to write until um, D&D came along, and some folks asked me to DM for them, but they wouldn't follow my script. And I said, I'm going to make up my own characters so
yeah.
that they follow the script,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
started off that way. And
Yeah.
things kind of snowballed from there.
Okay.
Hunter has a question that I certainly
Yeah,
have an
trying to
answer
Yes,
get
to.
yes.
everybody, but I didn't want to
Yeah,
interrupt
that's
anybody.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Mhm.
well, okay.
Um, when I'm writing my books, I'm seeing the movie.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's much like
Uh,
that for me too.
I've done
yeah,
it
a
too.
lot of my characters. Well, Beth and Hill is based on a character from the TV show Counter Strike, and I see these and I'm like, oh, it would be so cool if I could get Joe Percival to play Hill because he would be perfect for this part. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing my books as movies
Yeah.
and having other people see the movies that I see while I'm writing.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's me. When I got the cover for Secret, because of course it went through a publisher, so I had little to no control.
Mhm.
And I got the cover and I went, that's not how I pictured Hawk, but it works. I mean, it gets the idea
Mhm.
across, but that's
Mhm.
not what I had pictured.
Right.
And I had a couple other people say that too. That's not what I had pictured. I'm like, okay, then we're on the same page there. But again, it works.
And that may be the brunt of Hunter's question is, they're going to take your work. They're going to change it.
Oh
They're going to
yeah.
Right.
cast people that you would never cast to be those parts.
Or had
And
never even thought of.
yeah, and when it comes out and you sit there and see it the first time, you're going to go, oh no, oh no, oh no. But hey, somebody offer me a check. I don't give a care. Go ahead.
Well, that's the other thing people don't realize is the whole like, oh, I hope my book gets made into a movie. There's a whole lot to that happening.
Oh yeah.
And it isn't necessarily that you're ever going to get that call. Somebody may just take your idea and all they have to do is say it was based on a novel by done.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Or
they,
even
Exactly,
just
they
take
can
the
pretty much,
basic idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
they might use the title and maybe one or two of the characters' names, and the rest of it you've never seen before in your life.
Right.
And at this point in my life, I don't care. Now, when I was younger, I would have been like, I want complete creative control. We're not going to do this. And now I'm like, just write me a check and roll.
Really,
Yeah.
2% of the gross. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. Yeah, Rich.
I want the
Yeah.
merchandising.
Yeah, that too.
That's what made Jack Nicholson rich off of the first Tim Burton Batman movie. He took a pay cut so that they could afford him. He said in return, I want a percentage of the merchandising, all the toys and everything.
Smart.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jack knew what he was doing. Yeah, and the thing is, having done plays, you take a play to a different venue, you're going to have different actors,
Mhm.
and that's illuminating. Like I had one of my plays. One part was played by. It was written for a guy. I had a female playing it. Another person, I had a person of color, which changes the tone of the thing.
It does.
And not for the worse either. It was, really
No.
illuminating. And
I
most of the time
haven't-
when I write books, I cast it in my head anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't ever
Um,
said anything to anyone, but I was in a school play where I played the sheriff. Well, the sheriff was supposed to be a boy. I'm not a boy. I don't look like a boy. I've never looked like a boy, not even in high school. So I played the sheriff. Well, so we had to adapt the whole play around this whole, wait a minute, the sheriff isn't a boy, but that's okay. But it's historical, so they have to all be like, wait, the sheriff's a boy? Or the sheriff's a girl? Wait, hang on a second. So the whole play had to be adapted for me, that one character. I'm like, let's not go into that. Let's just pick somebody else. And they were like, no, you're perfect. Oh.
No.
yeah.
But
I do.
I have to brag on the readers here.
We all did, Dawn. We all do.
Okay, and there's the rest of that comment. And then y'all are gonna make me cry, okay? Because
Hey,
That's true.
I've
you
worked
deserve
very
praise.
hard to get where I am.
Yes, you do work very hard.
Yes.
Yes,
And
we
then there's
know.
Rich.
Me?
I'm
We
gonna
are kind
I'm
of
gonna-
incredible. So
I'm going to argue. I'm going to argue with Rich's previous comment where he said there's not great writing. There's only great rewriting.
yes.
Everything I write, when I put it down on the page, it's great already. I think.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And
Carl's
one the
proud of
people
his
on this panel
humility.
is full of hot air.
No. When I write something, it's fantastic. It could be better, and I make it better. But
That's right.
it's all right, good.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying.
Okay, Dawn, this is a different one for me. I don't know Dragonlance.
It's
I think
an
I've
offshoot
read
of
a couple of
D&D.
them.
Okay.
It's kind of an offshoot of D&D,
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons.
It's basically, if you can imagine somebody sat down and wrote a text version of a D&D game without the dice and everything else, just the script
Yeah.
Okay.
and
That sounds
followed
like
the
fun,
adventures and everything. That's what the Dragonlance books resemble. Now that's
Yeah.
not a put down. That is not a put
Yeah.
down because
No, yeah.
there's some very, very good ones.
Yeah, I met one of the writers, Richard Knack, who wrote some of the early ones. Great guy and a terrific writer. So
Oh, he said here. Hunter says Dragonlance also has an animated cartoon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I remember that.
Let's see what Rich said. Something here. I fear any properties I create being put into film or TV too much control freak. Well, see, I thought that too, Rich. And then the cover for Secret came out, and that's not what I pictured Hawk. And believe me, I'd had that story in my head for 20 plus years before it ever went to a publisher. So when they came back at me with that cover, I was like, well, that's not Hawk, but that'll work. That'll work. Where's the rest of his pictures? Because that'll work. I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah.
And also, if a studio, Rich, was to get a hold of your intellectual property, and they want more control over it than you have, they give you this thing called extra money,
Yeah.
and you have to figure out how much your soul is worth. Now,
Right.
mine can be had at a reasonable price. In fact, we run like blue light specials every now and then. I'll even help you carry it
There's
to
a
your
mark
car.
up in this bitch.
Really.
Yeah.
Let me figure out how much I still owe on my mortgage. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, Linda says options for movies. Sadly, we can't all be J.K. Rowling and demand total control.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get there someday, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, really. The first movie they make has to be a money maker for them, and then
Yeah.
they're willing to listen to you a little bit more with each
Well, I think-
successive movie after that.
That is something readers don't understand about if we write a series, especially in the romance genre, and we write the first book. And people say, well, I don't want to buy the first book and I don't want to read the first book until the entire series is done. You do realize that if the sales are really low on book 1, I'm not writing book 2. Why would I waste my time?
Right.
So you just
That's
told the
true.
writer, don't bother with a series or putting a series out until all the books are done. What if a series is ongoing and it's got 15 or 18 or 20 books? That's going to take a writer a long dang time. And the whole time, nobody
Mhm.
knows who that writer is.
Who was that writer who took the alphabet and said A is for whatever and
Sue
Yeah.
Grafton.
Sue
Yeah.
Grafton,
Sue
yes.
Grafton, yes. She
And she
made the
did really well.
Yeah.
But
she made the mistake of signing up for the whole alphabet, and I hear that by letter L she was kind of sick of it, but she had to fulfill her contract.
She
and sadly,
passed
she passed
away.
away before she got to Z. What was
Yeah.
it, around W or thereabouts?
That
I
sounds
think
She
so.
was
right.
Something
very
like that.
close.
Yeah, she was
She
real
was
close to the
very
end.
close. And they were very good books.
Hmm.
I love them. I love them.
Rizzoli and Isle series, and they're so different from the TNT show.
Oh.
Not
So
surprised.
I am reading it as they are writing the books from their TNT lives. Ah,
Okay.
nifty.
Well, one of my favorite movies is The Rocketeer, and there
Oh,
was
yes.
and that was majorly changed,
Hmm.
but it still
Yes.
is a great show. Ready Player One. I've read the book. The novel is fantastic, but the movie is almost like, let's take the points that the novel made, and we'll do our own spin on it.
Hmm.
Mm.
And it's still an outstanding book.
Mhm.
But in a lot of ways, the book was unfilmable because a lot of it had to do with like Dungeons and Dragons tie-ins, and
Yeah.
aside from the licensing, that was still a nightmare in the finished product of the film. It was a lot of stuff that I think would not be quite as visual as what Spielberg finally came up with for the finished product in the film.
Yeah.
One of our favorite shows is Star Trek, the original series. And of those, City on the Edge of Forever
Yes.
is one of the best and favorite ones. Harlan Ellison wrote the first treatment of that. And I guess Gene Roddenberry had to go to him and say, Harlan, okay, you've written a scene that has like 10,000 people gathered here. We can't afford 10,000 people. This is Star Trek.
Come on.
Come on, So, the best we can get is like 8 people, in a scene, or whatever.
Mhm.
He was very upset. I don't think the two of them spoke for the rest of their lives.
There were some other changes that were made to his story, and he wound up. Uh, didn't he take his? No, that was Starlost. He had him take his name off.
Right.
Yeah, he tried to
Yeah.
have his name taken off of City on the Edge of Forever, but he had signed a paper, and they wanted his name, is what they wanted. They
Right.
wanted
Yeah.
Harlan Ellison to write one of the episodes. And
Well,
so-
that was one of the things about classic Trek. Most of the stories were not written by TV writers. They came from science fiction writers, and the sci-fi writers were used to working on stuff like Outer Limits or Twilight Zone or things like that, so they could actually do a screenplay from one of their previous stories,
Sure.
and they got writer credits in there, and it was a lot of fun. And then James Blish got to write novelizations of the episodes.
Yeah.
So they sent him a copy of an early draft of the script, and he did his own thing with them. So sometimes his stories in the Star Trek log series, or no, the log was the Alan Dean Foster for the animated and later. Let's see, they just called it Star Trek, didn't they? But
they
it
did,
was
yeah.
novelizations of the individual episodes. But almost every one had several differences between what actually showed up on screen and what was in the draft of the shooting script that he got sent 2 years ahead of time, or whatever, however long his turnaround time was to get the script and get the book out.
And Ellison did eventually publish his version of the Star Trek script. Finally, but it was about
And that's the
20
thing.
years after.
with movies is you, as a writer, if you get the movie optioned or whatever, they're in contracts is when people talk about, well, they didn't follow the book or whatever. Well, they don't have to. All they're doing is taking the idea of the book and following it. Like Linda said earlier, we're not big enough to say in the contract, I want you to follow the book word for word for word. Like, I'm not that famous. I'm not that rich. If I were, then either you get the movie on my terms or you wouldn't. But like most of us are like, sure, you can make a movie off that. Give me the money. Like, do what you want.
Really?
Creative.
Some people wouldn't.
Owe me some retirement money. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you can use my name.
Yeah. But some people wouldn't do that. They would say, no.
Yep.
You cannot use it. I want it exactly. And if you're not going to do it exactly, don't give me any money. Don't sign me up. You can't.
Right. No, they back away. Which
that's great for those people.
I know of only one movie that was filmed the way the book was written, and very, very few people liked it.
Well, because a book and a movie are different things. Like,
Well, and the book had like a third of it was thoughts in people's heads rather than spoken dialogue.
Yes.
So you had this voiceover saying what the character was thinking, and folks in the movie theater did not like that whatsoever.
Yeah.
What movie was this, Dan?
It was the I think it was the original Dune.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't remember.
Difficult film
remember if
made
there was
on a difficult book.
I don't remember if there was one before that, but it was the one that actually made it big.
Yeah.
And
okay, you're right.
It had the voiceovers for the thoughts and everything, and I just absolutely loved it because it's my favorite short story. And 800 pages is a short story. If you read it in one, definition of a short story is something you can read in one sitting.
Yeah.
If I can sit for 11 hours, I can read Dune cover to cover.
I'd have to have extra brand.
Their own.
Do you have some more comments, Michaela? You got
a couple, yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Stephen King. He calls them moron movies.
But he just takes the money.
He just takes the money and walks away. And Rick Riordan is another one. If you read middle grade books, Rick Riordan, that man knows his audience.
Yes.
And I never would have said that had I not met him in person. But he knows his audience. And when Disney forked over a check, he went, do what you want. There you go. Like, he's rolling.
Same with George R.R. Martin for Game of Thrones.
But at his own event, at the very end, there was a movie played, and it wasn't one of the movies made from his books, ironically enough. It was the movie that inspired his books. So it was an old Greek mythology movie. Almost to the point where you could see the film was damaged and it had the flickers in it and stuff. That's how old that movie was. Like, he didn't even show movies made from his books.
I didn't even know the ancient Greeks made movies.
I didn't either, but
they were hand cranked.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It took forever to draw individual frames on papyrus and finding a candle bright enough to shine through.
It says Wheel of Time is hard to put to the screen. The showrunner is doing a pretty good job. It's not the Wheel of Time I love, but it's got major beats in the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now, I am in the middle of reading Dashiell Hammett's The Thin Man right now for the first time. I am very familiar with the movie. And it is astoundingly close to what was on screen. I mean, the guy pretty much wrote as if it were the screenplay.
Yes, Clash of the Titans. We thought it was going to be a Rick Riordan movie based off his books, but that was the damn movie that he showed.
Oh yeah, the Ray Harryhausen Clash of the Titans.
I love me some Harryhausen.
Oh yes.
Watch that. You got these middle schoolers that are wound for sound because they just met Rick Riordan. And then they put this movie on. They're like, sit down, kids, watch this movie. And they're like,
wait a minute.
Better that than the remake.
I was an adult when Clash of the Titans was on. You're telling me it was ancient Greek. Oh, whatever.
We nice
Yes,
kids
it
are,
is,
Carl.
dang it.
Get off my lawn, Michaela.
Get off my lawn.
Go
I've
ahead.
never hung out with the pups anyway.
There you go.
Oh, let's see. I'm seeing if I missed anybody here. Don't think so. Okay, so I have questions.
We have questions.
What do you, let me see here. What's the one thing that you've spent, like, what's the best thing you've ever spent money on as a writer? Like, if it's a computer program, a favorite book. As a writer, what's the best money you've ever spent? Look, the crowd goes quiet.
Okay,
We have
I'll
lots
start.
of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll start. Books. You absolutely books on the craft of writing. And I'll say, and note I said plural, because it's not like in this field you buy one book unless it's a dictionary, and you're done, because there's always something new to learn. And if nothing else, I see stuff by some of my favorite writers, like J. Michael Straczynski or Lawrence Block or Dean R. Koontz, who have written some really great books over the years on not just the craft itself, but the mindset, which I think is equally important. So I would think my best investment is probably books.
Yeah. On the writing subject, yeah.
Yeah. Second best investment was Calgon.
Not necessarily just on the writing. I mean, books. Period.
Oh yeah,
Read constantly. Read everything you can get your hands on, even stuff you don't necessarily like that much. I mean, there was a time when I had run out of science fiction books, and the only thing I had access to was westerns. And I learned a lot from reading Louis L'Amour and hell, there was half a dozen different, and then there were different 20s, 30s, and 40s mystery writers that I'd never heard of. That I just happened to find a book in one of the places that sells used books. Picked it up and I go, "Oh wow, this is awesome! This is awesome! I got to find more of these." And then I turn around about 2-3 years later, PBS has got adaptations of these books on mystery, starring Peter Davison in the title role. And I'm going, "Oh, yes, okay. I got to get more of these. Find out how many she wrote."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Campion, yeah.
Margie Allingham. I do believe we have the full collection.
But that's, if I had any advice to give to somebody that wants to write, read everything you can get your hands on. Good, bad, indifferent.
Today, I read something that said, read as much as, if not more than, you write.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you,
Michaela,
Brian? Oh, I think you said
I've broken this wrist once, and I've broken this wrist twice. So for me, handwriting something would be torture. So the best investment I ever made was the first electric typewriter I got, and then the first computer I got, because now I can write a lot more than I would if I tried to write it out by longhand.
Yes, I was going to say the keyboard that is split. I don't have one yet, but I might.
They're very nice.
I have a couple friends that have them.
Now I had one of those and I hated it.
Did you see? And that's what I'm waffling on. I'm like, I don't know. I've been used to this one so much. Maybe I should just get a fancy one like this that isn't split.
I've seen some that have just come onto the market that are not as badly split as the one where you're basically typing with your hands facing each other. That the keyboard is closer to a normal QWERTY keyboard. So, but it's curved.
Yeah,
Microsoft used to make one that was hinged, and you could spread it however much you wanted. So it was more ergonomic for individuals. I mean, somebody might have it way out, but somebody else might have it fairly close to being connected.
Right.
And Microsoft made one that it had a big hump in the middle.
I've used that one.
Not only were they separated, but they were kind of turned in like this a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was much more comfortable
Well, I've seen the ones that have the mouse in the middle too, and I thought, I don't know if I could get used to that.
You don't have to use that. You can use it.
Linda says she has one and split keyboard and couldn't get used to it.
I've used a couple of different models, and I'm not fond of
Yeah.
them. But then I'm not a touch typist.
Yeah, if you have trouble with your hands, though, they really can.
Well, and that's what I'm working on, because I've always had trouble with my hands anyway, and now that I'm writing full time or most time, it's one of those, maybe that'd be a worthwhile investment, maybe not. So I don't know. It may take buying this brand or that brand or this style and that style and figuring it out.
Is there a computer shop or someplace where they'll let you play with one?
Yeah, there's Best Buy. I can go play with one at Best Buy.
See what it
I
feels
also
like.
see them at Staples too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one we had, I do believe we got to try out to do a review for.
Okay.
And so it was one of the very first that came out, and it wasn't helpful.
I love that.
Okay, Grant, you get punished. What shall Grant's punishment be?
Submit to your spanking.
Now he's rubbing his hands. Another toy that I have played with several times, I've done speech to text.
Yeah.
Through the years, and I've watched them evolve so that you don't have to spend days updating their dictionary with their the pronunciation guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
I had one of the first speaking dragon programs, and I thought, oh, this is great, this is fantastic. And I used it, and it couldn't understand me. I'm like, really? I'm like white on white toast. How can't you can't understand me? What the heck?
Did I tell you?
I had a problem with it understanding my accent too, and listen to my accent. I mean, seriously.
Different than mine, though. But like, come on,
Michaela, did I tell you my story about that? Because I worked in rehabilitation, okay, and this was sold to people as, people who can't use their hands could still write things, And I went to a demonstration, and it was doing really well until I looked back behind their banner, and there was a guy back there typing what the guy said. They were actually cheating. And they said, well, it's just not quite ready for the market yet. I'm like, it never will be. This stuff, because people would buy that and then find out it was crap, and they're going to talk.
And leave bad reviews.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the reasons. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree with Dan. And one of the best tools I have is just buying books and readings. But I also have the series that inspired me to do the stories that I've done, so that if I'm not feeling inspired, I can go back and watch the series again and get back into it.
I haven't. My trouble with inspiration is I don't have much trouble being inspired to write something, I guess because I've got so many stories wobbling around in my head. But I guess it comes from music and movies and just real life. And I guess, because I don't know, I've never had that spot where I'm like, I'm not inspired to write. What should I write? I've always got something.
Yeah.
It may not have been what I sat down at the keyboard to and intended to write, but something gets written.
Yeah, that's one thing I have no trouble with plotting either. I also give away plots because I've got so many, and I'm not saying that to brag. It's just that I have trained myself to look at the news or to listen to music, and like you said, or to see a movie and see what I would do to twist the plot, to make it more interesting to me. I got the idea from taking ideas from newspapers and remember newspapers, kids? Anyway, from a comics writer named Nicola Cuddy, who I later got to thank him for his inspiration and his various bits of help that he didn't know he gave me. But he said if you can read the front section of your newspaper and not come up with half a dozen plots, you're not trying.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's kind of where I get the people watching these days.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Shoot, you can go to any event you want to, or even Starbucks, whatever. Go somewhere, McDonald's, sit there. You'll see some interaction between somebody that'll make you go, I wonder if, or I wonder what. And that's where I think sometimes people need to put the phone down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're missing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned music. When I give speeches at libraries, I always give two examples, and one is like the Beach Boys' "Fun, Fun, Fun." What if Daddy didn't give the T-Bird away?
Yeah.
You know, or another one I came up with fairly recently was Penny Lane. In Penny Lane, there's Barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and he still has most of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and
Oh,
Yes, I can.
oh.
Yeah, tell me you can't make a story out of that, or
Yeah,
say you
that's-
want to write about an octopus's garden. You know,
well,
what's he
for us,
growing?
we have a spot down by the Illinois River that we pass frequently, and there's this big concrete wall, but we pass it at 45 or 50 miles an hour.
Mhm.
Well, so the kids don't really pay attention. And one day I said, "Do you guys see the door in the wall?" The what? I said, "The door in the wall. There is a concrete wall that has a U-shaped door, okay?
Mm.
And if you look, it's been filled in with concrete slabs. So it's not used anymore, but it was at one time."
Mhm.
Well, if you go and you look, it's a house that was on the Underground Railroad.
Ah.
Ooh.
How many stories could that house tell? Or just
Mhm.
driving by that tunnel, you automatically think, how many stories could I write?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then who found the tunnel?
I'm writing it down.
At some point.
Yeah.
Did
Really?
the new owners that found the tunnel concrete it in for a reason? What reason
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah.
Is it still used? On the other side of that, in the house, do they showcase that? Do they hide that? Is it blocked over?
What
Like,
are they trying to
oh,
keep in there?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, is that their red room of pain? I want to know.
I want an invite.
Here's one I
Right.
noticed. Somebody pointed out in one of the boat videos I was watching from England. They were going under a bridge. There was a dock next to one of the pylons for the bridge. On the dock was a post box,
Hmm.
a Royal Mail red official post office box. So, who puts their mail there? What does the mailman? Does he come by on a boat and climb up there and empty it? And what's his schedule?
Right. Right.
What
I want
happens
to describe it.
when the river rises and it floods? Does the mailbox get full of water? Does the mail get ruined?
Mhm.
Is it on pontoons? Does it go up and down with the?
Yes.
You know, it's just one of those things. It's like
Mhm.
going to a park and noticing somebody's set up a little gnome door at one of the base of one of the trees, a little
Yep.
fairy door.
Mhm.
Don't go knock.
Yeah, don't.
They
Yeah.
might answer with a
Not advised.
shotgun. You know.
That's one of the things that geocaching and Munzie have done for me, playing those games,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always looking for hidden things.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what people can hide in different things, and that's what got me interested because of the espionage angle.
Right.
Because of what we call dead drops. So
Yeah.
one spy will like stick something underneath a bench or something, and another spy comes by 2 hours later and picks it up. That geocaching gives me that, and it always makes me look at things a little differently because there's that secret world underneath where the normal people.
Yes. Yes. It's like a parallel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, and I think one writer that did that really well was Cressley Cole with her Dark Desires After Dusk was the first one I picked up.
Okay.
Which sounds, that sounds intriguing. Okay.
Mhm.
So I pick it up and I read it. First time I'd ever read a paranormal romance, ever. Didn't even know what it was. And so I picked her book up. That book is hot. If you want some hot reading, pick up Cressley Cole. The woman is a gym teacher. That's her day job, was gym teacher. So she wrote these books that bordered on Okay, her for lack of a better word, let's call them demons. She had all kinds of factions of different mythological beings. Okay,
Mhm.
but they blended in with human society, and things that happened, you'd be like, you could walk past that gas station and never know that that took place.
Mhm.
Or like one thing that happened was this girl was changing in the gas station bathroom and she grabbed hold of the sink and broke it. She was so strong. But she was
Mm.
so stressed out, she didn't realize it until she pulls back and she goes, oh, well, here's these fingerprints in this sink that's broken. They just walk away. Who's going to find it? Somebody's going to find that, aren't they? Right
Mm.
there in the middle of everyday people. Nobody even notices it. They're walking past a demon. Cressley Cole does a really good job writing that stuff.
Mhm.
Like, teach me your ways.
Oh, I remember another one now. It sparked an idea right away. I used to go primitive camping in Tallulah Gorge.
Mhm.
So you're taking 3 days worth of food and potable water and everything else, 1,100 feet straight down.
Mm.
Nope.
So you're not climbing straight down. There's a winding path along the side that's
Oh, okay. Okay. That I
a
can do.
slope. You just kind of switch back your way back
Okay.
and
Yeah.
forth till you get to the bottom. But when you're at the top, you can look across the gorge and there is a square hole cut out in the opposite edge about 8 feet down from the
Hmm.
ground. It looks like a hallway
Hmm.
Interesting.
and it's 1,100 feet up from the bottom of the gorge and it's about 8 feet down from the top. There's
Bigfoot.
no there's no porch, there's no ladder, there's no any way to get to it except free climbing. And Lord knows
Yeah.
I'm not about to try that.
Well,
Could
yeah,
you
But
because then once you
lower
it
got there, how
always
do you
it
run
always
away?
struck me, where does that hallway go?
Yeah.
could
No
you
kidding.
lower somebody down on a rope?
If you could figure out how to brace the rope, I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, if you had um like a big bulldozer and got up about 10, 15 feet away from the edge,
Okay.
Right.
lowered the blade to keep it from going any further, you could probably somebody could probably rope down easily enough. Um,
Oh, I have another good one.
Yeah.
Oh, the Mountain King, maybe.
Yeah.
could be. Now, a
Now
friend
we
of
have
mine
to
used
agree.
to write a combination of Celtic mythology and Cherokee Indian mythology, and Tallulah Gorge was very important in the Cherokee Indian
That's
mythology.
where I've heard Tallulah before.
Mhm.
hmm So, and he didn't know about the door, but I told him about it. But he never got a chance to put it in one of the stories before he passed away. But um, it was one of those. He had there was uh, one of the Irish elves had a home inside Stone Mountain.
Mm.
Oh,
You had to be able to walk through solid rock to get to it,
Mm.
yeah.
Okay.
but that was no problem for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just one of those little details.
Oh, heck
You
yeah.
see this thing and you go,
What if? Yep.
wonder how where that goes.
Mhm.
Well, I was listening to Stephen King, and it's my funnest thing to reference because it's the funniest thing I've heard a writer say. And Stephen King said, I just watch people and I think about things and I think, what if a zebra fucked a giraffe? Like, what? Hang on, but that's what you think about? And he's like, well,
Where do you think
weird
a
stuff.
copy came from?
He's like, this weird stuff. Like,
Look
and I
it up.
thought, well,
It's a zebra-sized animal marked like a
Giraffe.
giraffe.
yeah. And what does it eat? Like,
Mm,
yeah. So, I mean,
No,
there's the
last one I met was awfully
question,
fond of tacos, but
right. But,
I was going to say, being
what?
Stephen
It's
King, it
all,
probably ate people.
Yeah,
yeah.
probably.
Mm.
There was something else I was going to ask you. Oh, I know. I have another question I have to ask. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Hang on, I gotta find it.
Okay.
What's the one thing you would give up to become a better writer? Yeah. I heard your giggle, Brian.
I've already done it.
What?
Television.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
See,
knew that too because that's a time suck.
It
Yeah.
really is, because 10 years ago when I lost my job at the water company, we just, after a couple of months, and it finally dawns on me how unemployable I am. Something about an attitude problem. Anyway, but we were cutting costs in the house, and we said, well, let's try going without the cable for a while. And I didn't realize how much of my attention it was taking, even when I'm not consciously watching it. And my speed took off like a rocket. And now I use TV. I'll buy like a DVD set, and I will use it as a reward.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got this much writing done. Let's watch a movie, honey. That sort of thing. So, but it's like when y'all talk about what's on TV. I only know it if it's a meme now.
Yes.
Or I read about it, or if like I still get I watch Doctor Who as much as I can, and that's one of my obsessions. But I hear that David Tennant's in a show. Okay, I bone up enough on that so I can at least appreciate what's being said about, or Matt Smith in the new Dragon show or whatever. But otherwise I haven't seen a moment of a lot of these shows that people are just go gaga over. So so water cooler talk does nothing for me.
I think what really hit home for me was when we had out here we have satellite TV, and we're paying something like $200 a month for it.
Yeah.
And I looked over at my husband, and there he is on his phone, and I'm on my phone, and the TV is on, and I'm like, "Are you watching this?" And he goes, "Well, not really. I'm kind of listening to it." And I thought, we do this almost every night after dinner. We sit down here, and we turn the stupid thing on, we watch the news, and then whatever's after the news, we just tone it out. Why are we spending $200 a month for the news?
Exactly.
Radio is free.
Right. Well, so is regular TV, your public news stations and stuff, which is the only thing that we watched, really. Like Brian said, if we're watching something else, it's because we deliberately wanted to watch a movie, and we don't watch a lot of those. So what the heck are we doing, paying $200 a month for something we stare at but don't listen to or watch?
Yeah.
Yep. We wound up getting rid of the satellite dish about 2.5 years ago, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And got a Roku.
Yeah, we got a regular antenna. Put it on the roof. There you go. We get like 2 channels now. We watch 2 of them.
Lindsay's watching her British soap operas that she grew up with, and they're still going on.
Oh yeah.
She got her BritBox, so she can do that. I've got Netflix, so I can watch different things.
Yeah.
She wanted to watch the Beatles documentary, and so I got Disney Plus, and I've been enjoying all the comic book shows on Disney Plus. I've got a free version of CW on the computers. I can watch stuff on there. We went from spending $200 a month to spending $15 a month for TV.
Yeah.
Don't even think of it, Carl.
No, I know, no.
Not this household.
But for me, because of what Grant just said, okay, I was watching certain television shows, and I thought, well, this is stupid, and so I'd stop watching that show, and then I watch something else. I go, no, that's stupid. I'm not watching that show. On YouTube and on Curiosity Stream, I can watch a show that isn't stupid and that has something to do with writing or the topic that I'm writing about, and I can learn, and I can move and use that. So for me too, it was giving up the stupid part of TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't.
If you can find something besides cable that doesn't have all the rerun channels
Oh Lord, yes.
because I love the rerun channels.
Yeah,
I don't get involved in them, but it tunes out my tinnitus
Mm-hmm.
so that I can concentrate on what I'm doing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Don't ask me to do music because I'm going to get involved in my music.
I'm not going to
You know,
take it away from you. I'm just saying, for me,
Right.
I'm down to like 3 programs I watch.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is
Mhm.
Doctor Who, and then there's a couple that are kind of mysterious on certain things, like the show about abandoned places.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of like you were saying, it makes me think, ooh, what could this
What could?
be?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
gets me
starts the brain thinking of something
Mhm.
rather than being told something. Now you have to
Mhm.
think of different things and ways it would work.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because I
So
would
we're
watch.
approaching the hour mark.
Ooh, okay.
So let's go with one more question. What writer or author should a new person network with?
Me.
Okay.
Donna.
I'll go
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they should throw it right to Donna or not. Yeah.
Don't say me.
Ladies first, dang it. I mean, women first.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Not me. Okay. Because I'm antisocial. But one of the other fine people.
Unless you want book covers done, then follow Carl.
Oh,
Yeah. And my problem is, you ask me what time it is, and I'll give you the history of clock making.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes,
so- you know,
but sometimes you need clock making because you need to know the inner workings of something.
that's true. That's true. I tend to over-explain because I tend to overthink everything I do. So, yeah. We'll see, any specific writer, I don't know. I would find somebody.
Now you're just sucking
Yeah.
up, Grant.
You're done, Grant. See? That was easy. I would say, now here's something I did, and it was not deliberate. I swear to God it wasn't deliberate. But when I first got on Facebook, I started following writers I admired.
Mhm.
And then I started liking what they said. I like it. And then eventually I got, well, I've got something to add to the conversation. So then I
Right.
type in a comment, and it gets your name known, and it gets to the point where also you can work it up, and eventually you send them a DM, say, hey, listen, I've got this question. Would you mind answering it for me? I also had an advantage in that I wrote articles on pop culture before I had to do this thing full time, and so I had like a number of people who were already doing what I'm doing now, and it has paid off wonderfully. It was never intended to. It's all very rising tide, but but the part of the thing is you have to not do it like people
I
can
was
tell
gonna
when you're
say, yeah.
sucking up to them, basically.
Yeah.
You
And I was
Yeah.
going to say, it has to be, so let's say you follow a writer and you realize, you know what, this writer is not who I thought they were.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
agree with them very much, but I think they could help my career, so I'm going to tag along. Don't do that.
No, no.
I've actually unfriended
If it
writers
feels
when I find out
bad-
they're idiots.
Yeah, if it feels bad, if your views don't align, just
Yeah.
there's so many other authors you can look up to, you can pick from, you can
Yeah.
help, and Linda's a suck up too.
Yeah.
Well, Linda's right.
But even if you don't agree with somebody, okay, it
Right?
doesn't mean you can't learn certain
Right.
skills from that.
That's
person.
true. That's true.
I'd say try to find a writer who is in your genre.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help. And also learn to communicate with them. Last year, Michaela at Halicon, when we read Skunk's play,
Yes.
Yeah.
I did not realize he was wanting anything more than
Yeah.
how does this sound?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
So I didn't read it as an editor. I
right.
read it as someone who is going to be, reading this as a reader.
As a reader, I did the same.
And I read everything
yeah.
as an editor now because I'm doing so much. But so I did go back and I said, okay, here's some stuff I think you ought to pay attention to. But otherwise, it was great.
It didn't necessarily mean that Skunk didn't want that feedback as well.
Oh
He
yeah,
was just looking
exactly.
for that and other feedback of, hey, can you critique this?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's the other thing is the new writers or even new artists, they don't know to ask the right questions. So when
They
you
don't
ask
know what they
somebody,
don't
can you
know.
read this?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, they'll read it. If you ask them to critique it, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask them to edit it, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
And
learn to ask
yeah.
the right
Amen.
questions.
So
Exactly.
last year, had he said critique, I would have read it
Right.
differently.
Yeah.
Well, and it was a
But
fun night and everything, and
yeah.
we were having a good time. And so for me, it was, I really like this. I don't want to put it down, but I also want to be a part of the party. And,
Yeah.
and then Brian's got
Yep.
it after the party. So then he got to, read it and slow down. And
Because I live such a pure life.
Ah.
okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't maintain. Sorry. Broke
You're
character.
not-
One thing would be to find shows such as ours
Mm-hmm.
where you have different opinions also.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Believe it or not, guys, we don't agree on everything.
No.
Do we agree on anything?
I
We
disagree with
agree
that,
we're
man.
all great writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Hey, Michaela, before we end,
Uh-huh. What? What do you got?
Waiting
Oh,
on
look
a
at that,
Star.
another one?
Yay.
It'll be
Yeah,
out in time for the Wabash show.
Oh,
Michaela,
cool.
you have to remember, I've been at this a lot longer than you do.
yeah,
Well, yeah,
Hunter's,
I try not to bring up ages because it seems to offend some grumpy old men. So
it's just
I don't know if
that
I
I
come off their
have.
lawn or something.
Not anyone who wears a fez, so.
I'm like you're writing your books now.
Yes.
I have a surplus behind me.
Yeah.
Right.
Hunter's
Yeah,
Ridge
she's
has
got a
4
back
more
catalog
books
that she's editing now.
yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter's Ridge has 4 more books
is
that's
great.
already written. Beth and Hill has, I think, 3 more that's already written. And then there's like maybe a couple dozen other stories that have been written.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So I'm
with
kind of
it-
sitting on my laurels.
If I may,
Yeah.
I would suggest that everybody, no matter where they live, look up literary conventions
Oh, heck
Yeah.
within driving distance, within traveling distance of where they live.
Sure.
Go to a convention, go to every writing panel you can,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and listen to what the writers say. Ask them questions. When the panels are over, when the con is over, when it's stupid o'clock, get in conversations with them. Talk to them like they were, your next door neighbor or the guy across the street or whatever. Everybody likes to be treated as if they were just the guy next door in that
Right.
situation. Not, oh, I'm fanboying over your book. It's like, hey, there's something wrong with this pizza, right? It's been sitting too long. Do you think maybe they got
Right. Well, because trust me, if you come up to me and you ask me about Hawk and you've got details about his character and you're asking me questions about it, I'm going to fangirl over you. Because I've never yet had a reader, I will, but I haven't yet had a reader come to me and ask me specifically about a character when I'm at a con.
Yeah.
So it's coming, it's getting there because yes, my books are selling and people are knowing my name and I haven't yet had that happen, but it will. And trust me, I will fangirl over you guys. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and also going back to that, YouTube has a number of really terrific shows, like Jenna Morisi was one of my favorites, Susan Tisdale. that talk about writing in a very general sense. And there's also this show that's coming back Wednesday night called Clever Title Pending, in which case we have Jim Beard and John C. Bruning on at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central on the Brian K. Moore's Rising
All
Tide
these new up
Network.
and coming kids. What the heck?
Still haven't fixed
Yeah.
that printer, huh?
This was done in haste for another show, so
Okay.
but that's okay. You should also sign up for newsletters because Michaela has one. You can get one here from me, and if you want to find out where these writer shows are happening, Michaela and I will gladly tell you.
Oh,
So,
heck yeah.
Grant Langford has a newsletter
yes, Grant is an excellent one.
that
And so does Joe D. McPhee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Brian Rodman has one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys.
Linda and I both have them, but we're horrible about getting them out on time every time. It goes back to that whole I don't want to spam my readers, but if there's something serious I need to tell my readers, I'll send them a newsletter.
I do it once a month, usually around the 1st, but I also put in like other stuff, some YouTube videos, good quotes that people can use. So it's I make it a lot more fun. Even if you don't want to read what I've got, people like seeing what the videos are. So
Right. And what your friends are up to, and
exactly, yeah.
So we
And I
try-
also
we
tell them
try
everywhere I'm going to
every day.
be. So
Like
Well,
being
one of
a
the things
writer.
I have done to help promote, I put Michaela's YouTube channel, in my editorial for Epelian as a link. So people reading my editorial and going, a channel about writing? Hey, let me check that out. Because Epelian is all about writers and readers, but they overlap a lot. So if anybody from Epelian shows up watching this, that's fine.
Well, I think Rich came from that. That's how I met Rich, was because he knew you from Epelian, and he was on Stupid O'Clock, I think.
Probably, yeah.
yeah.
That or
Rich
Last Man Standing.
Rich had been reading Epelian, and he absolutely loved what I called a page of narrative hooks, where it's basically the opening line of a story, or a line that will generate a story. It doesn't have to be the first line, but for me, that's the way I work. I come up with this narrative hook, and then boom, next thing I know, I've got 500 pages, and I'm going, that was not what I expected. But these are all free that anybody can use. I've written a couple from it myself, but never taken them off the page. It's just one of those things. There used to be another just like it, but it was an artist's paintings, and those were supposed to generate stories, and they did. Matter of fact, back in the day, some professional agents would troll through the different writing e-zines, and he got a contract for doing his art because an agent saw his artwork in my magazine.
Good, nice.
So, hey,
That's
when is it my turn?
yeah. Okay.
Buy Dan's books.
Yes,
Go to Amazon. Buy Dan's books. You're welcome,
Please,
Dan.
yes.
I'm here to help.
Get in touch with William Joseph Roberts and tell him you want to read stuff that's now out of print that he has on his desk in the pipeline, ready to publish.
Well, it's like Donna was saying that she's been at this a while, and she's got books on the back burner, basically. Like, they're done. We got to print them. So I've been doing this new thing called Vella. Well, I started doing it. I saw some results, and I said something to Linda, and she says, well, what the hell? I'll give it a try. And I was like, well, what book are you going to do? Because we talk about books that we're working on and things that we have in the wings. And she's like, well, I've got this one, and I've had it for years. And I read it, and I'm going, you've had this for years? Why didn't you publish this? Well, it's not along the lines of what she publishes. She publishes historical, Western, romance. Well, this one isn't historical at all. But for Bella, put it up there. See what happens. It's amazing. She's like, oh, I had it for years. It's nothing. It's whatever. Like, are you
Are any of
kidding?
your reviews showing yet, Michaela?
Like, are you
Are any of
kidding?
your reviews showing yet, Michaela?
2 of them, but not yours. So there's Carl and one other, and I don't know who the other person is. It just says Kindle user.
Oh, the
So
reviews?
yeah, on
Yeah,
Vella.
it takes Amazon a while to approve your reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
It
it's
can
not
take up 72 hours.
if it's not a review of a product you bought,
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
hate that book? It's fucking awesome. Freaking amazing. What? Is it after
But
9
yeah,
o'clock yet?
it can't hurt if you have something sitting around to put it on the Vella
Right.
Yeah.
and try it and see if something happens.
I've
Yeah.
got stuff in my back catalog that I'm not doing
I
anything
know.
with.
Right.
I mean, there are a
Well, and
couple
that
of them
was-
that really need a good edit,
That's
but
what I
this
was
would be
thinking
an
with,
excuse to give them one.
like, because Vella goes by episode, not chapter. I thought it was a chapter. Episodes aren't even a chapter long. Now they can be, but they only have to be 500 words. Who can't come up with 500 words? Come on now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I've always been a big fan of the old Republic serials. I know what cliffhangers are for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Joe had to go. Bye, Joe, if you're still here. Bye.
See you, Joe.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been an hour. I think we covered a lot of topics. I think we're good.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I
Oh, we're
think we
awesome.
probably generated some new stuff for 2 weeks from now when we do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right. So we will say goodbye, and we're going to see if I can do this the correct way, like with an outro. Let's see, maybe. Here we go. Okay, guys.
Still
that
live.
is it. That's a wrap, and we'll see you later. Yeah, we did it right.
Nope, we're live.